Hello everyone. For this week's platforming tutorial, I'd like to explain how to make more realistic physics. So for example, make the speed change gradually instead of the character having a stiff, constant speed like it does now. We would do this by having a separate variable called vertical speed. Although that is just a convention, what I recommend, it could technically be anything. We will use and update this variable as a way to update the speed, accelerating or decelerating. The first step is to give vertical speed an actual value when you begin the program, so it will be 0 by default. The next step is to revise the jumping function in terms of vertical speed instead of a constant number. So we would first use vertical speed as a placeholder for 10. And then we would change the vertical speed by a certain amount. In this case, we will go with 5. So now, if we briefly take out the falling function implemented last week for playtesting purposes, we will see that the character accelerates because we add or change the vertical speed by 5 each time, so it accumulates. However, technically, we only want the player to accelerate downward, and we want the jumping to be a constant speed upward, as that is how it looks in most games. So we would fix this by setting the vertical speed to an absolute amount, in this case the 5 pixels we specified earlier. And now we play test again and see that it moves with the same speed, it no longer accelerates. So now we are equipped to make our falling mechanic more realistic, just like we made our jumping mechanic more realistic, by in the else condition with the if-else touching the platform, we would change the vertical speed by -5. And we would change the y by vertical speed rather than an absolute amount. So now we test again to see if it works. And indeed it does, although the character drops suddenly because we forgot to reset the vertical speed when we touch the platform, which we will do now. As we can see, the physics works in a more realistic manner now, although it looks like you are jumping on the moon instead of jumping in the platform game. Because of how high the value was when we specified how much pixels it should jump by. So we will fix that as well. Generally, with things that require numbers to work. such as motion and pixels, we would have to plug and play different numbers and use trial and error and our best judgment to see what we think works. There is no one set rule that works for all games. On that note, we can also see that the falling is a lot less slower than you would usually expect in a platformer game. So we would have to tweak the negative amount in the if-else block until we are satisfied with our result. The other thing we notice is that you can jump an infinite amount of times even when you are not touching the platform, which is not how platformers are supposed to work. So you would have to use even more sophisticated code to fix that. Although in this case, the fix should be relatively straightforward, as we would use an AND conditional to check if the space key is pressed and you are standing on the platform by touching the black color. We now check to see if our code works. And indeed it does. You can no longer hold space to hover indefinitely. However, our jumps are very weak, so we would tweak the number again. And this number, I believe we should be satisfied with. Now that we have made our game physics realistic, we can explore how to make more professional touches to our game, such as animating the character or adding sound effects and music, which will be the subject of the next tutorial video. Don't forget to subscribe if you found this video informative, and make sure to see other tutorial videos, and follow me on either Facebook or Twitter for more content.